Deputy Vice-Chancellor, graduands, guests, I'm delighted to introduce our honorary graduate today, the Right Honourable Hazel Blears. Hazel's long been a friend of the University of Salford, and she's been a devoted servant of the City of Salford through her work, politics, engagement with charitable organisations for the best part of 40 years. And that is why we are recognising her many achievements today. Hazel was born in Salford. She was raised here. She went to school here. She's Salford through and through. So much so that when she was a small girl, she appeared as an extra in a film, A Taste of Honey. It was a gritty northern 1960s kitchen sink drama set in Salford. She did briefly leave Salford to study law at what is now Nottingham Trent University, and then Chester College of Law, and we'll forgive you for that, Hazel. And she was the first in her family to go to university, like many of you, I imagine. She soon returned to the city, though, starting her career as a trainee solicitor for Salford City Council. She later left for private practice before working at other local authorities across Greater Manchester and the North West. But being born in Salford, with a trade unionist father and a passion for local government, it's not really surprising that a career as a Labour politician soon beckoned. In 1984, Hazel stood for election as a local councillor in Salford. She won her seat. She served on the council until 1992. And at the same time, she pursued a route to the House of Commons. She stood first in Tatton, was an unwinnable seat for Labour, in 1987. But following this, she contested Bury South in 1992, and she lost that by just 788 votes. Her perseverance paid off, and in 1997, she was elected as MP for Salford, her home seat. She was one of 120 women elected to Parliament that year, double the number that had been elected at the previous election in 1992, and one of 101 female Labour MPs in a record-breaking year for women in politics. Upon entering Parliament, her talents and potential were soon recognised, and she was elevated from the backbenches with considerable speed. From acting as Parliamentary Private Secretary to various ministers in the early part of her career as an MP, she then became a member and then later deputy head of the Labour Party campaign team, and she was tasked with campaigning across the country in the run-up to the 2001 general election. Now, following the general election, she entered government as the Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State for Health, and she was responsible for public health. And it was in this job that Hazel launched the 5-a-day campaign to get us all to eat more fruit and vegetables. She later became a Minister of State in the Home Office and also served for a time as chair of the Labour Party. She became a Secretary of State in 2007, taking on responsibility for communities and local government. And when she left the Cabinet in 2009, she continued to represent the people of Salford as their MP, campaigning on local issues from hospital closures to work experience for young people. I hope she won't mind me saying this, but Hazel's political career was not completely without controversy. But she never let this detract from her political values, nor from her love of Salford and her desire to see real change on the issues that impact on people's lives. And there's just one issue that Hazel really stands for and has campaigned on tirelessly for years in politics and beyond, and that's dementia. During her time in Parliament and since leaving frontline politics, Hazel has been an ambassador for people living with dementia. It's an issue that's very close to her heart. Her personal experiences of dementia in her family have clearly informed her passion for working in this area over a sustained period of time. She's taken high-profile and very influential roles, such as the chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Dementia, an ambassador for the Alzheimer Society, an advisor to our own Salford University Institute for Dementia. And it's in her role as advisor to the Salford Institute for Dementia that Hazel has really made a huge contribution to this university. She has an extensive network across charitable organisations, care organisations, local government figures, members of Parliament, national government. She's been a tireless advocate for the Salford Institute for Dementia, and she's worked so hard to forge links regionally with bodies such as Dementia United and Salford Royal NHS Foundation Trust, and nationally with organisations such as Nordoff Robbins and the Alzheimer's Society. But beyond her black book of valuable contacts, it's been her passion, her personal passion, for supporting people living with dementia that should be recognised. She stepped back from her work with the Institute earlier this year, but I know that Hazel's devotion to this cause and her involvement with the university will not stop. She's dedicated her life to public service, both for the betterment of her own community here in Salford and across the nation. She has a personal tenacity and commitment and passion that all those who've worked with her have benefited from. And I've had the privilege of meeting Hazel on a number of occasions, and she's warm and funny and caring and a rather wonderful person. She's a true asset to Salford and to this university. I couldn't be more delighted, therefore, to present for the degree of Doctor of the University the Right Honourable Hazel Blears as a fitting tribute to a lifetime of contribution to our city and our country. Deputy Vice-Chancellor, I present for the degree of Doctor of the University, honoris causa, the Right Honourable Hazel Blears.
Our honour, thank you. I'll just give you that. Very proud, very good. That's right, just hang on 1 second. So by the authority vested in me by this university, I admit you the Doctor of the University, honoris causa, Hazel Blears.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's a tremendous honour for me to be with you all today and to, first of all, recognise the amazing achievements of so many of you in this fabulous theatre today. But before I go on to talk about the university and the achievements that you've all made, I just want to say a really, really heartfelt and personal thank you to everyone from the university, because I've done many things in my life and, you know, I've had some achievements and some failures like we all do. But I can honestly say that today is one of the proudest moments of my life, because Salford is my city and Salford University is my university. So thank you so much. So I want to start off really by recognising the amount of imagination, creativity and intellect that there is in this room. If we could bottle the achievements that you've all made, then, you know, I really think that we could change the world almost overnight. And I'm so excited to be in your company. But it's not just our graduates today. It's also recognising, I hope, the background, the support and the drive that you've all received from your families, your friends and the people who've worked so hard to get you to the place that you're in today. And I hope that as we recognise you with your degree certificates, for every single person, we also recognise that there is a whole set of people behind them, really urging them on to success. And that's what I want to say a few words about today. As Sheila said, I was born and brought up here in Salford in the 1950s and 60s. Seems a long time away now, but the world then was changing really fast, just as it is now at a kind of breakneck speed. And my mum and dad, Dorothy and Arthur's with us here today, which I'm absolutely delighted about. Dad, thank you so much for coming. But my mum and dad, I like to think of them as kind of part of Kennedy's generation, that generation after the war who hadn't had opportunities for themselves, but were absolutely determined that their children would be able to do better than they did to get on in the world. Both my parents left school at 14. They didn't have the chance for further education, let alone higher education. But they wanted their children to do well and have opportunities that they'd never had. My dad, Arthur, amazing man, intelligent, wise, incredibly hard-working, and a really great person in my life. And my mum, Dorothy, as you've heard, she died, unfortunately, of Alzheimer's 5 years ago now. But she's here with me today and always. She was what would have been described today, I suppose, as a bit of a tiger mum. She said to me, if you work hard, and it was always prefaced by if you work hard, the world's your oyster. You can do anything, you can be anything, you're as good as anybody else. And she kind of inculcated this into us from being tiny, tiny children. And you know, if you say to children, you can succeed, you can do well, you can do amazing things, and if you tell them that every day, it's no surprise that they begin to believe you. But equally, if you don't say that to children, and you say that they're no good, and they'll never amount to anything, it's no surprise either that those children sometimes fail to achieve the potential that they're capable of. So, my mum and my dad, actually, they drummed into us that education, education, education was what mattered long before Tony Blair ever thought of that phrase. My mum and dad were absolutely on it. But they also, not just education, they loved poetry, they loved music. My mum in particular loved art. She won a scholarship to the Royal College of Art. But in those days, with no money, how do you take up a scholarship in London? Absolutely impossible. But she never lost that love for beauty. So I do believe that it was my parents' determination and grit growing up in Salford, which gives you amazing resilience. It's those kind of qualities that enable you to go on and to be successful. And I had some good luck as well and good fortune. So I did qualify as a lawyer, I became a councillor, a member of parliament, and eventually a government minister. I'm not sure you're meant to go from a 2-up, 2-down terraced house without a bathroom in Salford to be a cabinet minister, but maybe our politics would be a little bit better these days if we had a few more people round the cabinet table with a bit of a grip on the realities of ordinary working class people's lives. We shall see. But it is a great honour to represent your hometown. And again, that happens very infrequently these days. And I do genuinely believe that if more people had the privilege of representing where they're from, with their roots, with their values, again, we might see a little bit more reality in our political life. I'm looking around this theatre now, and I'm thinking about the days when we fought to bring the Lowry Centre to Salford. And it was a battle, you know, bringing the Lowry Centre to a place like Salford. Theatre and millions of pounds of investment. Were we getting above ourselves? You know, did we not realise these kind of things go to massive big cities in the south? But we fought to get the Lowry Centre. And the pivotal thing that made us a success, rather than the other people who were bidding for it, was the children of Salford. They made a video. They didn't just direct it and produce it and write the script. They appeared in it. And they made a video about why art and music and beauty was important to them as children growing up here in this city. And that video had the judges in tears, absolutely in tears. They could see the raw talent that there was in our city, and we won. And similarly, bringing Media City to Salford again changed the image of the city dramatically, almost overnight, from a place that was seen as tough and hard to a place that really did have the ability to dream and imagine and create in a way that nothing else had given us. So the university played a huge role in helping to support both of those bids for Media City and for the Lowry Centre. And the university, obviously, as many of you will know, started off as a technical institute at the beginning of the century and only got recognition as a university in, I think, 1967. But what the university's done for me throughout that period is it's remained rooted in the real world. Yes, it's been able to dream and to imagine, but it's always been practical about how do we help students get into the world of work? How do we help them get qualifications that mean something in a very fast-changing world that can keep them up to date and keep them relevant? And I was thinking about, in the last week or so, about the Apollo moon landing. I think we've all been thinking about that, haven't we? And that was really literally aiming for the stars. And yet, if I think about some of our scientific programs that we have here at the university, in particular the work that we're doing around robotics, it is just absolutely world class. It is leading that kind of development. So we don't have to just keep our feet on the ground. It's great that we do. We also have to have the imagination and creativity to be able to dream those dreams that all of you are going to go out and achieve. My more recent experience at the university, as Sheila said, has been with the Institute for Dementia, and I'd just like to make some thanks. I'd like to thank Professor Anthea Innes, who's been our first director. I'd also like to thank Margaret Rowe, who's the Dean of the Health and Society School, who can't be with us today, but has been an amazing champion. And also I'd like to thank Helen Marshall as the Vice-Chancellor, because you don't get to start an Institute for Dementia, you don't get to bring together researchers unless you've got leadership from the very top. And that leadership has enabled us to get a leading research programme at the university. Dementia is an appalling disease. It robs us of the people that we love. And 1 in 3 of us in this room today will get dementia. And I believe passionately that we need to have far more investment in research. Dementia only gets 20% of the research that goes into fighting cancer. And yet it's the disease that destroys the lives of hundreds of thousands, not millions of people. So what we've done at the Institute is create something that I believe is unique. It's led by people who are actually living with dementia, people who have the disease, their families and their carers. They determine the research programme, they evaluate the research, they take part in all of the activities. And there is nowhere else in this country, and I believe globally, where it's people with dementia who are at the centre of an academic research programme. It's something extremely precious. And I've been privileged to be able to be a part of that, and I will continue to champion it as an Alzheimer's ambassador wherever I possibly can. Now, I want to finish really with something that Sheila and I didn't share our speeches today, but she mentioned the fact that when I was 5 years old, 6 years old, they came to film A Taste of Honey in our street. And it just made me think about my mum, because my brothers are 3 or 4 years older than me. And the director came to the end of our cobble street, and there was a great to-do because, you know, a whole film crew and all the thing that goes with a film crew, the whole street was really excited. And he said he wanted some extras to appear in the film. So my mum, being a good, proud, working-class woman, she put our best clothes on us, sent us out into the street, and she said, here they are, they're 2 of the best children you're ever going to find for your film. And the director took one look at us and he said, no, these 2 won't do, they just won't do. And my mum was horrified. She said, why not? Why not? My children can be in this film. And he said, they're too clean, and they're too tidy, and they look too presentable. What I really want for the film is some kind of scruffy, snotty-nosed urchins. And so my mum was devastated. But, you know, she was very, very creative. She took us back in the living room. She put smut on our noses. She got our old clothes out, made us look like scruffy urchins, sent us back out. And the director had no option but to include us in the film. And there we are in the credits, bouncing balls, singing about the Ali Ali-O. And she was absolutely overjoyed. And so for me, that kind of sums up our life. We always had special things. We had no money. We always had special things. And if I think about A Taste of Honey, actually it was a really brave film in the 1960s. It tackled mixed-race relationships, it tackled teenage pregnancy, and it tackled gay sex long before it ever became possible to do that. So I think the film, for me, was a bit like Salford people, and very much like the university. It was brave, it was provocative, it was challenging, but it was full of love. And that's who we are. So thank you so much for honouring me today. It's been one of the very, very best days of my life. Thank you.